The message arrived at 3 in the morning, station time. A soft blue light filled the dark bedroom, pulling Ambassador from her sleep. She did not jump or panic. She simply opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling for a long moment before sitting up. She had been waiting for this message for 11 years. The holographic display floated above her bedside table, showing the official seal of the Galactic Council. The words beneath it were simple and direct. Emergency session. All ambassadors required. Attendance mandatory. Read the message twice, then turned it off. She sat in the darkness of her small room, listening to the hum of the space station around her. Somewhere in the distance, she could hear the engines that kept this massive structure spinning through the void. It was a sound she had grown used to over the years. It was almost comforting now. She was 47 years old. She had spent 11 of those years living on this station, representing Earth in the Galactic Council. 11 years of meetings, 11 years of negotiations, 11 years of watching other species look at humans like they were children who had wandered into a room full of adults. The aliens were not cruel about it, not usually. They were simply dismissive. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 60 years ago. To species that had been sailing between stars for thousands of years, humans were newcomers, primitives, interesting perhaps but not important. Had smiled through every insult. She had nodded through every dismissal. She had pretended not to notice when other ambassadors laughed at human proposals or ignored human concerns. That was her job, to be patient, to be humble, to wait. Tonight the waiting was over. She stood and walked to her closet. Inside hung her diplomatic uniform, a simple dark blue suit with Earth's symbol on the shoulder. She dressed slowly and carefully, checking every button and fold. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a woman with tired eyes but steady hands. Good. That was exactly what she needed to be. A knock came at her door. She opened it to find Lieutenant Hand standing in the hallway. He was young, maybe 28, with a face that still showed his emotions too clearly. Right now, that face showed fear. "Ambassador," he said, his voice tight, "you received the summons." "I did." "Do you know what it means? The whole station is talking. They say the have formed some kind of alliance. They say they are going to demand our colonies. They say." Spoke his name softly and he stopped talking. "I know what they say. I also know what is true. Those are not always the same thing." She stepped past him into the hallway and began walking toward the embassy offices, hurried to keep up with her. "But Ambassador, if the rumors are true, we are in serious trouble. The Dominion alone has 5,000 warships. The Collective has even more. And the Empire," he shook his head. "We cannot fight all 3 of them. Earth only has 300 ships." 312, corrected him, as of last month's count. "That does not help. 300 ships against 17,000. That is not a war, that is a slaughter." They reached the embassy offices. The lights were already on and could see other members of her delegation moving around inside. Everyone looked scared. Everyone except her. She stopped at the door and turned to face. He was a good young man, smart, dedicated. He had worked hard to earn his position on her staff, but there were things he did not know, things almost no one knew. She said quietly, "I need you to do something for me." "Anything, Ambassador." "I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" He stared at her for a moment. In his eyes, she could see confusion mixing with something else. Hope, maybe, or just the desperate need to believe that someone had a plan. "I trust you," he said finally. "I always have." "Good," she put a hand on his shoulder. "Then trust me when I say this. Everything is going to be fine, not easy, not simple, but fine." She turned and entered the office. Inside, her delegation was gathered around a large table covered in holographic displays. There were 7 of them in total, not counting her, and 7 humans in a station filled with thousands of aliens. 7 humans who were about to face the worst diplomatic crisis in Earth's short galactic history. "Status report," said, taking her seat at the head of the table. Her chief analyst, a woman named O, spoke first. "The rumors are confirmed. The Dominion, the Collective, and the Empire signed a mutual defense treaty 6 hours ago. They are calling themselves the Triad Alliance. Their stated purpose: to address what they call human aggression in the rim sectors." His voice was bitter. "We built 3 research stations and 2 mining colonies. Apparently that counts as aggression now." Another delegate spoke up. His name was, and he handled military affairs. "Ambassador, I have been in contact with Earth Command. They are preparing for the worst. Admiral Park is moving our fleet into defensive positions, but—" he spread his hands helplessly. "There is only so much they can do." Nodded slowly. "What about the council session? Do we know the agenda?" "Not officially," said, "but our sources say the Triad Alliance will invoke Article 7. The room went silent. Everyone knew what Article 7 meant. It was the Galactic Council's way of making war legal. They called it regulated conflict, a pretty name for an ugly thing. Under Article 7, any alliance could declare war on another species if they claimed their security was threatened. The Council would not interfere. They would not help. They would simply watch and record the results for their history books. It was how the strong controlled the weak in this galaxy. It was how empires grew and civilizations died. And now it was being aimed at Earth. "When does the session begin?" asked. 2 hours, replied. She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. From here, she could see dozens of ships moving around the station. Cruisers with their sleek silver hulls, battleships covered in thick armor, carriers that looked like floating cities. And somewhere out there, invisible in the darkness, were Earth's 300 ships. 300 ships that the galaxy knew about anyway. "Contact Earth Command," said without turning around. "Tell them to begin Protocol 7. Frowned. "Protocol 7? I have never heard of that." "You would not have." Finally turned to face her team. Her expression had changed. The tired diplomat was gone. In her place stood someone harder, someone who had been hiding behind that tired face for a very long time. "There are things about Earth that the galaxy does not know," she said. "Things we have been hiding since before any of you were born. Things we hoped we would never have to reveal." She looked at each of them in turn. These were good people, loyal people. They deserved to know at least part of the truth. 43 years ago, Earth's leaders realized something important. The galaxy is not a fair place. The strong take from the weak. The Galactic Council does not protect anyone. It simply gives powerful species a legal way to destroy weaker ones. She paused. "So we decided to stop being weak." His eyes went wide. "Ambassador, what are you saying?" "I am saying that for 43 years Earth has been hiding its true strength, our real fleet, our real technology, our real capabilities." Smile was thin and cold. "The galaxy thinks we have 300 ships. They think we are primitives who got lucky. They think we are prey." She walked toward the door, her delegation staring at her in stunned silence. "They are wrong, and tonight they are going to learn just how wrong they are." She opened the door and looked back at them one last time. "Get ready. We have a council session to attend, and I have been waiting 11 years to see the look on their faces." The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was built to make visitors feel small. It worked. The ceiling rose so high that it disappeared into artificial darkness. Massive pillars of blue crystal lined the walls, each one glowing with soft inner light. The floor was made of polished black stone that reflected everything like a dark mirror, and the seats rose in circles around a central platform, climbing higher and higher until the top rows seemed to touch the stars themselves. Ambassador had walked into this chamber hundreds of times. She had never gotten used to it. That was the point. The species who built this place wanted everyone to feel small. They wanted everyone to remember their place. Today, however, did not feel small. Today she felt ready. Her delegation followed her down the long walkway to Earth's platform. It was located near the bottom of the chamber, close to the central stage but far from the important seats. That was another reminder of Earth's status. Young species got the cheap seats. Established empires got the high ground. As they took their places, looked around the chamber. It was nearly full. Representatives from over 40 species had answered the emergency summons. She recognized most of them from years of diplomatic work. They sat high on the left side of the chamber. They were tall beings with silver skin and 4 arms. Their faces showed no emotion, but their dark eyes watched everything. Their leader, High Arbiter, sat in the center of their group. He was ancient by standards, over 600 years old. His silver skin had faded to gray with age, but his mind was still sharp. The collective occupied the right side. They were massive creatures, standing nearly 3 meters tall. Their bodies were covered in thick natural armor, and their faces looked like something between a rhinoceros and a nightmare. Admiral led their delegation. He was famous throughout the galaxy for his brutality. He had personally destroyed 17 civilizations during his career. He was proud of every single one. The Empire sat at the top of the chamber in the most honored seats. They looked almost human at first glance, but their skin was pale blue and their eyes glowed with soft white light. They were the oldest species in the council, claiming a history of over 50,000 years. Elder Nox spoke for them. She was small and frail, but her voice carried the weight of. These 3 powers had ruled the galaxy for as long as anyone could remember. They competed with each other, yes. They fought their little wars and played their political games. But when it came to dealing with younger species, they always found ways to work together. The Triad Alliance was just the latest example. A deep bell rang through the chamber. The session was beginning. High Arbiter rose from his seat and descended to the central platform. He moved slowly, deliberately, letting everyone watch him. When he reached the center, he raised all 4 arms in the traditional gesture of authority. "The Galactic Council is now in session," he announced. His voice was calm and cold, like water under ice. "The Triad Alliance has called this emergency meeting to address a matter of galactic security. I will speak on behalf of the Alliance." He turned in a slow circle, making sure every delegation could see his face. For 6 decades, the species known as humanity has expanded through the galaxy. At first, this expansion seemed harmless. They were few in number and weak in technology. We welcomed them into the council. We shared our knowledge. We offered them friendship. Kept her face perfectly still. She remembered that friendship very well. The high prices for basic technology. The unfair trade deals. The territories given to Earth that no one else wanted because the resources had already been stripped away. But humanity was not grateful, continued. Instead of accepting their place, they pushed further. They claimed territories in the rim sectors without permission. They built military stations disguised as research facilities. They refused to share their technology with the Council. That last part was technically true. Earth had developed several new technologies in recent decades and had chosen not to give them away for free. This was apparently a crime. The Triad Alliance has determined that humanity represents a threat to galactic stability, said. Their expansion must be contained. Their military must be controlled. Therefore, we formally invoke Article 7 of the Galactic Compact. The chamber buzzed with whispers. Everyone had expected this, but hearing it officially made it real. Under Article 7, the Triad Alliance declares regulated conflict against Earth, announced. We demand the immediate surrender of 12 human colony worlds in the rim sectors. We demand the reduction of Earth's military to a maximum of 50 vessels. We demand full access to all human technology and research. He paused, letting the demand sink in. Humanity has 72 hours to comply. If they refuse, the Triad Alliance will take what we demand by force." Admiral of the stood up in his seat. His deep voice rumbled across the chamber. "And let me be clear about what force means. The Triad commands 17,000 warships. Earth has perhaps 300. He laughed, a harsh sound like grinding rocks. "This is not a threat. This is mathematics. Submit now and your species survives. Resist and you join the list of forgotten civilizations." The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to Earth's platform. Every being in the room waited to see how humanity would respond to its death sentence. Lieutenant Han leaned close to. His face was pale. "Ambassador, what do we do?" Did not answer immediately. She stood slowly, smoothing her diplomatic uniform. Then she walked down to the central platform, her footsteps echoing in the silence. High Arbiter watched her approach with something like pity in his dark eyes. He had seen this before. Young species facing destruction always sent someone to beg. It never worked, but they always tried. "Ambassador," he said when she reached the platform, "do you wish to respond to the Alliance's demands?" "I do." His voice was calm, steady, not at all what anyone expected. "Then speak, the Council listens." Took a moment to look around the chamber. She saw the powerful species in their high seats, looking down with contempt or boredom. She saw the weaker species watching with sympathy, knowing they could be next. She saw Admiral grinning with anticipation, already imagining the slaughter to come. "High Arbiter," she began, "before I respond to your demands, I need to inform the Council of something important. It concerns Galactic Compact Provision 12 Alpha." The silence changed. It became sharper somehow, more focused. Elder Knox leaned forward in her seat. "Provision 12 Alpha, the Developmental Concealment Clause." "Yes." "That provision allows primitive species to hide their true capabilities until they face a genuine existential threat." The ancient's glowing eyes narrowed. "It has not been invoked in 3,000 years." "It is being invoked now," said. "Earth has been operating under Provision 12 Alpha for the past 43 years. Your declaration of regulated conflict triggers the Revelation Clause." Admiral laughed again. "What revelation? We know everything about Earth. 300 ships, basic weapons, primitive shields. You have nothing to hide." Looked at him. For the first time since entering the chamber, she smiled. "Admiral, you know what we wanted you to know. There is a difference." She touched the communicator on her wrist. "Admiral Park, this is Ambassador. The Triad Alliance has declared regulated conflict. You are authorized for full disclosure." A voice came through the communicator, clear enough for everyone to hear. "Understood, Ambassador. Dropping concealment in 30 seconds." High Arbiter stepped toward her. "What is this? What are you doing?" "I am showing you the truth," said. "I suggest everyone watch the display screens. You are about to see something remarkable." The holographic displays around the chamber flickered. Then they went dark. For a moment there was only blackness. Then the screens lit up with a new image. Ships, thousands upon thousands of ships. They appeared out of empty space like ghosts becoming solid. Destroyers and cruisers and battleships in numbers that made no sense. And behind them, something so massive that it blocked out the stars. Admiral stopped laughing. High Arbiter stopped moving. Elder Knox stopped breathing. "That," Ambassador said calmly, "is the real Earth fleet. 47,000 warships and 3 planetary assault platforms." She paused. "Now shall we discuss your demands again?" The chamber erupted into chaos. The chaos lasted for nearly an hour. Delegates shouted at each other. Communications devices buzzed with frantic calls too. Several species simply stood and stared at the holographic displays, unable to process what they were seeing. Ambassador remained on the central platform, watching it all with the patience of someone who had prepared for this moment for a very long time. The images on the displays kept changing, showing different angles of the human fleet. Every new view brought fresh waves of disbelief. Destroyers moving in perfect formation, cruisers bristling with weapons that should not exist, battleships larger than anything the Triad Alliance could build. And behind them all, the three massive structures that humans called planetary assault platforms. "This is impossible," High Arbiter said. He had repeated the word several times now. His silver skin had gone pale gray. "Our intelligence reports showed 300 ships. We monitored your shipyards. We tracked your resources. This cannot be real." "Your intelligence reports showed what we wanted them to show," replied. "You monitored the shipyards we let you find. You tracked the resources we made visible." "For 43 years, Admiral demanded. He had finally found his voice, but it was no longer filled with confidence. "You hid this for 43 years. 47, technically. The first 4 years were preparation." Far across the galaxy, Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and allowed himself a small smile. After decades of secrecy, it felt strange to finally be seen. His ship was the flagship of the Third Fleet, one of 8 fleets that made up Earth's true military force. Around him, 17,000 vessels moved into formation. Their concealment fields were fully deactivated for the first time in history. Sensors from across the galaxy were detecting them now, sending data back to shocked observers everywhere. Commander Bay stood beside him, monitoring the communications traffic. "Admiral, we are receiving thousands of scan attempts. Every major power is trying to analyze our ships." "Let them scan," said. "Let them see everything, that is the point." The Indomitable was a battleship, but not like any battleship the galaxy had seen before. It was 3 kilometers long, covered in armor that had been developed in secret laboratories deep beneath Earth's surface. Its weapons systems used technology that human scientists had invented and human engineers had built, without any help from the Galactic Council's knowledge banks. For 47 years, Earth had smiled and nodded while the other species called them primitives. They had accepted the scraps of technology the Council offered while secretly developing something far better. They had built shipyards in the empty spaces between stars, hidden behind concealment fields so advanced that even the Empire's sensors could not detect them. It had been the largest deception in human history, and it had worked perfectly. "Commander said, give me a full status report." Checked her displays. All 8 fleets are in position, and are holding at the designated coordinates. Total active vessels number 47,231. Nodded. The 3 planetary assault platforms were the crown jewels of Earth's hidden military. Each one was the size of a small moon, capable of reducing entire continents to ash. They had been designed as a last resort, a weapon so terrible that no enemy would dare attack Earth directly. Today, they were a message. "Open a channel to the Council station," ordered. "Ambassador requested that I address the Council directly." Back in the Grand Chamber, the holographic displays shifted to show Admiral Park's face. He was an older man, with gray hair and calm eyes. He wore the uniform of Earth's Navy, a uniform that most species in the galaxy had never seen before. "I am Admiral Park," he said, "commander of Earth's combined fleets. I am authorized to confirm what you are seeing. This is not a trick. This is not a deception. This is the military force that humanity has built over the past 47 years. He paused, letting his words sink in. "To the Triad Alliance, I offer this warning. Any attack on human territory will be met with overwhelming force. Your 17,000 ships will face 47,000 of ours. Your weapons will meet armor they cannot penetrate. Your fleets will face destruction they cannot escape." Admiral slammed his massive fist against his seat. "You would not dare. Even if your numbers are real, a war between our civilizations would devastate the galaxy." "Yes," agreed calmly, "it would. That is why I hope you will reconsider your demands." The display returned to showing the fleet. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Elder Nox of the Empire rose from her seat. She was small and frail, but when she spoke, everyone listened. They were the oldest species in the council. Their words carried weight. "How?" she asked simply. "How did you accomplish this? Our sensors cover every sector. Our spy networks reach into every government. We have monitored humanity since you first reached the stars. How did you hide an entire civilization's military production?" Ambassador answered, "We hid it because we had to, because we understood what kind of galaxy this is." She stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. "When humanity first joined the Council, we were hopeful. We believed that older species would help us grow. We believed that the Galactic Compact would protect us. We believed in fairness." She shook her head slowly. "It took us less than 20 years to realize we were wrong. We watched the Dominion consume 3 smaller species, absorbing their territories and erasing their cultures. We watched the collective bomb civilian populations to force surrender. We watched the Empire use economic warfare to reduce independent worlds to client states." Her eyes moved across the chamber, meeting the gazes of delegates from dozens of species. "And we watched the Galactic Council do nothing. Article 7 allowed it all, regulated conflict, a legal way for the strong to destroy the weak. So we decided to stop being weak," she continued. "We built our ships in secret. We developed our technology in hidden laboratories. We created concealment fields so perfect that even we sometimes forgot where our fleets were hiding." High Arbiter found his voice. "This is a violation of Council transparency requirements. You are obligated to report your military strength." "Actually, no," pulled out a Provision 12 Alpha specifically exempts developing species from transparency requirements until they choose to reveal themselves or face existential threat. Earth qualified as a developing species for the first 30 years of our Council membership. By the time that status ended, we had already hidden everything. "And you waited," Elder Nox said slowly. "You waited for someone to threaten you. We hoped we would never need to reveal ourselves. We hoped the galaxy would change. We hoped that one day, the Council might actually protect the weak instead of giving the strong permission to destroy them." His voice hardened. "But you did not change. And today, when you thought humanity was helpless, you proved exactly why we were right to prepare. You were going to take our colonies. You were going to reduce our fleet to nothing. You were going to turn our species into servants." She stepped closer to High Arbiter, looking up at his silver face without fear. "Instead, you gave us exactly what we needed, a legal trigger for revelation, an existential threat that justifies everything we have done, and now you face a choice you never expected to make." Admiral rose to his full height, towering over the delegates around him. "What choice? You think we fear you? The Triad Alliance will simply build more ships. We will match your numbers. We will crush you eventually." "Eventually?" raised an eyebrow. "Admiral, your alliance took 17,000 years to build 17,000 warships. We built 47,000 in 47 years." She let that sink in. "How long do you think eventually would take?" For the first time, real fear showed in his eyes. "Let me be clear," said, addressing the entire chamber. "Earth does not want war. We never wanted war. We built our fleet because we knew that someday, powers like the Triad Alliance would try to destroy us. Today proved we were right to prepare." She returned to the central platform. "But we are not like you. We do not want to conquer. We do not want to rule. We simply want to exist peacefully as equals. The choice is yours. Withdraw your declaration. Accept humanity as a major power. Help us build a galaxy where Article 7 is never used again." She paused. "Or refuse, and discover what happens when you try to destroy a species that spent 47 years preparing for exactly that moment." The chamber was silent. Then High Arbiter spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. We need time to discuss this with our governments. Nodded, you have 24 hours. After that, we will assume your declaration stands, and we will respond accordingly. She turned and walked back to Earth's platform, where her delegation was staring at her with something between shock and awe. Lieutenant Han leaned close. Ambassador, what happens now? Sat down and folded her hands. Now we wait, and we see if they are smart enough to be afraid. The private meeting chamber was small compared to the grand hall. It had a single table, a few chairs, and walls that blocked all signals from entering or leaving. This was where real negotiations happened. No audiences, no performances, just honest talk between powers who understood each other. Ambassador sat on one side of the table. High Arbiter sat on the other. 12 hours had passed since the revelation. In that time, the galaxy had changed more than it had in centuries. News of Earth's hidden fleet had spread to every corner of civilized space. Species that had never paid attention to humanity were suddenly very interested. Species that had considered humans beneath their notice were reconsidering everything they knew. The Triad Alliance was in chaos. The Dominion had called emergency meetings that were still ongoing. The collective's military commanders were demanding action, but their government could not agree on what action to take. The Empire had gone completely silent, which was perhaps the most worrying sign of all. And High Arbiter, the silver-skinned leader who had declared war on humanity just hours ago, was sitting across from with fear in his ancient eyes. I must know, he said quietly, was any of it real? Any of what? Your delegation, your diplomatic work, the negotiations we had over the years, were you simply pretending the entire time? Considered the question. No, I genuinely wanted peace. I genuinely tried to find ways for humanity to grow without conflict. The pretending was in what I showed you, not in what I wanted. His 4 hands rested on the table. They were trembling slightly. I have served the Dominion for 400 years. I have seen species rise and fall. I have watched civilizations destroy each other. I thought I understood how the galaxy worked. You did understand, said. You understood that the strong take from the weak. You understood that the council protects the powerful. You understood that species like mine were meant to serve or die. Yes. Your only mistake was thinking we agreed. Was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke again. What do you want? True, I mean, not the speech you gave in the council chamber. What does humanity actually want from this situation? Reached into her bag and pulled out a. She slid it across the table. These are our terms, read them. Picked up the. As he read, his expression changed from fear to confusion to something that might have been disbelief. This cannot be right, he said finally. You are not demanding territory. You are not demanding tribute. You are not even demanding the dissolution of our military. No. You want war crimes tribunals for specific individuals, not entire species. He scrolled further. You want reparations paid to the civilizations we harmed, paid from our treasury, not taken by force. More scrolling. You want a reformed galactic compact with actual enforcement, with rules that apply to everyone, including the major powers. He set down and stared at her. This is not a victory demand. This is a reform proposal. Yes. You could take everything. You have the power. Your fleet could crush ours. You could occupy our worlds. You could make the Dominion a client state the way we have made so many others. His voice cracked slightly. Why would you not do this? Leaned back in her chair. High Arbiter, let me tell you something about humanity, about who we really are. She paused, gathering her thoughts. 47 years ago, when our leaders decided to hide our true strength, they had to make a choice. They could build a fleet designed for conquest, ships meant to take territory and control populations, weapons designed to destroy civilizations. They chose not to. Instead, they built a fleet designed for defense, Our ships are powerful, yes. Our weapons are devastating, but they were created to protect humanity, not to attack others. That is a strategic decision, said. It does not explain mercy. It is more than strategy. It is who we are, leaned forward. Humans have done terrible things in our history. We have fought wars. We have committed atrocities. We have nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. But we have also learned. We have grown. We have built something better out of our worst mistakes. The Galactic Council taught us that the strong take from the weak, but humanity does not accept that lesson. We believe that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak. We believe that power should be used to help, not to harm. Pretty words, said, but his voice lacked conviction. How do I know you mean them? Smiled slightly. Because if we wanted to destroy you, we would have started already. 47,000 ships, high arbiter, 3 planetary assault platforms. We could have attacked without warning. We could have eliminated the Triad Alliance before you even knew we existed. Instead, I am sitting here, offering you a chance to survive, offering you something that you have never offered anyone else. What? Fairness. Stared at her for a long time. The silence stretched between them like a bridge over deep water. Admiral will never accept this, he said finally. They do not understand mercy. They see it as weakness. Then Admiral will have to be removed, peacefully if possible, by force if necessary. His voice was calm. He is one of the individuals named in our war crimes list. He will face trial for what he has done. And if the collective refuses to hand him over, then we will demonstrate that mercy has limits. Nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand. Humanity was not being weak. They were being strategic. They were offering their enemies a way out that did not require total destruction. It was a gift, yes, but it was also a trap. Accept the gift and the old way of doing things dies. Refuse the gift and die with it. The Empire said, Elder Knox has not spoken since your revelation. She has not contacted me or Admiral. She is planning something. We know, pulled out another. This is intelligence we have gathered on the Empire over the past 40 years. Communications, financial records, military deployments, plans they thought were secret. She handed it to. He scanned through it quickly, his silver face going pale. You know everything, he whispered. Every scheme, every alliance, every betrayal. We had 47 years to watch. We used that time well. Then you know what Elder Knox is planning now. She is contacting the other major powers, trying to form a coalition against humanity. She believes that if enough species unite, they can overwhelm our fleet with numbers. Looked up sharply. Will she succeed? Shook her head. No, because of this. She gestured, and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed a list of species names, dozens of them. These are the civilizations that the Triad Alliance has harmed over the centuries. Species you conquered, species you economically enslaved, species you erased from history. Her voice softened. For 47 years, while we were hiding our fleet, we were also building alliances, quiet agreements with the oppressed, promises of help when the time came. They will stand with us, not against us. The coalition Elder Knox is trying to build will find itself outnumbered before it even forms. Set down his hands had stopped trembling. Now they were simply still, like the hands of a man who has finally accepted his fate. You planned everything, he said. Every detail, every possibility. We planned for survival. We planned for victory. And most importantly, we planned for what comes after. Stood up. The galaxy is going to change, High Arbiter. The question is whether the Dominion will be part of that change or a casualty of it. She walked toward the door, then stopped. You have 12 hours to convince your government. Tell them what I told you. Tell them about the terms. Tell them about the choice. And if they refuse? Looked back at him. Her eyes were not cruel, but they were not soft either. Then we will do what we must. and we will build a better galaxy without you." She opened the door and left. Sat alone in the silent room for a long time, staring at in his hands. It contained the terms of humanity's mercy. It also contained the possibility of hope. For the first time in 400 years, he was not certain what would happen next. But he knew with absolute certainty that the old galaxy was already dead. Whatever came next would be something new, something different, something human. The deadline arrived at midnight, station time. Ambassador stood on the observation deck of the council station, watching the stars. Behind her, the grand chamber was filling with delegates. This session would determine the future of the galaxy. Everyone who could attend was attending. Lieutenant Han approached quietly. "Ambassador, it is time." Nodded but did not move immediately. She was watching a particular region of space where, invisible to normal eyes, 17 Earth battleships had taken position. They were close enough to respond instantly if things went wrong. They were far enough away to not provoke panic. "Have we received any communications from the Triad Alliance?" she asked. "The Dominion sent word an hour ago. High Arbiter will make a statement at the session." Hesitated. He did not say what the statement would be. "And the others?" "The collective is silent. Admiral refused all attempts at communication. The Empire checked his. Elder Knox sent a message saying she will speak for the Empire herself." Finally turned away from the window. "Then we will learn their choices soon enough." They walked together through the corridors of the station. Unlike yesterday when other species had ignored them or looked at them with contempt, today everyone stopped to watch them pass. Fear, respect, curiosity. The expressions varied, but one thing was constant. No one ignored humanity anymore. The grand chamber was more crowded than had ever seen it. Every seat was filled. Delegates stood along the walls. Holographic projectors showed the faces of leaders who could not attend in person, watching from there. Earth's platform was no longer near the bottom of the chamber. During the night, the Council had quietly moved it to a higher position, closer to the Triad Alliance. A small gesture, but a meaningful one. Status in the Council was everything. Took her seat. Her delegation settled around her. Across the chamber she could see High Arbiter sitting with his silver face unreadable. Admiral stood among his massive form practically vibrating with anger. Elder Knox sat alone at the top of the chamber, her glowing eyes fixed on something that no one else could see. The session began. High Arbiter was the first to speak. He descended to the central platform slowly, his 4 arms folded behind his back. When he reached the center, he stood in silence for a long moment, looking around the chamber at the species he had commanded for centuries. "I have served the Dominion for 400 years, he began. "I have seen our civilization rise to the heights of galactic power. I have made decisions that shaped the lives of billions. Some of those decisions were good, many were not." He paused and something shifted in his posture. He seemed smaller somehow, older. "Yesterday, humanity revealed a truth that I should have seen long ago. Power is not permanent. Strength is not everything. The methods we used to build our empire are the same methods that have now brought us to the edge of destruction." A murmur ran through the chamber. This was not what anyone expected. "The Dominion accepts humanity's terms," said. "We will submit to war crimes tribunals. We will pay reparations to those we have harmed. We will work with humanity to build a new galactic compact that protects the weak instead of enabling the strong." Admiral roared. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. "Coward, traitor, you would surrender our empire to these primitives." "I would save our people from annihilation," replied calmly. "Something you would understand if you had any wisdom to match your strength." Surged toward the central platform, his massive body pushing through delegates who scrambled to get out of his way. "The collective does not surrender. We do not bow to threats. If they are too weak to fight, they will stand alone." He reached the platform and turned to face the chamber. I call on all species with honor to join us. Together, we can defeat this human fleet. Together, we can crush this threat before it grows stronger. Silence answered him. No one moved, no one spoke. Looked around, his armored face twisting with disbelief. Where is your courage? Where is your pride? The elder knocks. The Empire will stand with the collective, yes. All eyes turned to the top of the chamber where Elder Knox sat in her ancient seat. The leader was very still. Her glowing eyes had closed, and for a moment she seemed almost asleep. Then she opened her eyes and stood. The Empire has watched the stars for 50,000 years, she said. Her voice was soft, but it carried to every corner of the chamber. We have seen species rise and fall. We have seen empires born and die. We have seen powers that thought themselves eternal turn to dust. She began to descend toward the central platform. Each step was slow and deliberate. When humanity first joined this council, I thought I knew what they were. Another young species with dreams too big for their strength. Another civilization that would learn its place or be destroyed. She reached the platform and stood between a small blue figure between two giants. I was wrong, and being wrong after 50,000 years of being right is humbling. She turned to face. Admiral, the collective has fought many wars. You have won most of them, but you have never faced an enemy like this. Humanity did not build their fleet to conquer. They built it to survive. They built it knowing that someday species like us would try to destroy them. Her voice hardened. They are not fighting for territory or resources or pride. They are fighting for existence. And there is no enemy more dangerous than one who has nothing left to lose but everything to protect. Snarled, fine words from a species that has grown soft with age. The do not fear death. Then they are fools. Elder Knox's voice was sharp as ice. The Empire accepts humanity's terms. We will stand with the Inn building a new order. Stood alone on the platform. The two great empires he had counted as allies had abandoned him. His coalition was gone. His 17,000 ships suddenly seemed very small against 47,000. This is betrayal, he said quietly. This is the end of everything we built. No, Ambassador said. She rose from her seat and walked down to the platform, stopping just meters from the massive admiral. This is the beginning of something better. She looked up at him without fear. He could kill her with a single blow. His species had been feared warriors for, and yet she stood before him like an equal. Admiral, I know what you have done, the planets you burned, the civilizations you erased, the innocent lives you ended. Her voice was calm. You deserve punishment for those crimes. You will face trial. You will probably be executed. His hand twitched toward his weapon. But your people do not deserve to die for your mistakes, continued. The collective can survive this. They can be part of the new galaxy we are building. All you have to do is step aside. You ask me to surrender my honor. I ask you to save your species. She held out her hand. Your war is over, Admiral. The only question is how many of your people die before you accept that. Stared at her hand. Around the chamber, thousands of beings held their breath. Then slowly, Admiral reached out and took her hand. I will face your trial, he said, but my people live. Your people live, agreed. The chamber exploded with sound. Delegates cheered. Others wept. Communications devices buzzed with the news spreading across the galaxy. The war that had threatened to destroy civilizations had ended in a single handshake. Lieutenant appeared at side, his face wet with tears he did not bother to hide. Ambassador, we did it. We actually did it. Squeezed his shoulder. We did. Now comes the hard part. What could be harder than this? She looked around the chamber at the celebrating delegates, at the fallen empires, at the new alliances forming in real time. Building something that lasts.